Then we had episode number 7, Dan, the change episode.
Change.
Should I lower my voice on that? The change episode.
Change.
So I brought this one up because it was relevant, right? Going through a lot of change. Come the summertime, you were on to a new position, lots of change happening within where we used to work. And so I wanted to share this one and have the conversation because it's constant. Their change is always going to happen. Whether it's this week or next week or the week after that, there's something that's going to change in the world, and how to maneuver through it, how to handle it. What are some good ways? What are some pitfalls? Some of the things that we've run into and not managing change properly, and where that got us, or how we did manage change. And I think the takeaway for me on that is that you can't do it alone, right? You need people around you that will keep you straight, that will keep you, your mind and back to your emotional state, keep you in that good form that you can move forward, right?
Welcome to the Sales Problem Podcast. Here is the problem we are trying to solve. Every year you hit the reset button and you have to beat your numbers and grow your business. You have to get quicker, faster, and better. We are two guys trying to solve that sales problem, trying to help you grow by enhancing what you know about the art and science of selling and personal development. Along the way, we're going to interview some interesting characters and debate some different angles about this common business problem. So thanks for joining us. Let's get growing. Welcome back to the Sales Problem Podcast. We sure are glad that you are joining us. I am your host, Daniel Burns, and joining me is my rested and rejuvenated co-host, Steve Summertime Comerford. Steve, how you doing?
I have never been called Summertime Comerford before, but I'm very relaxed. I'm enjoying the summer. It is nice weather. All is good with me, and taking care of myself. So it's good.
Our listeners are dying to know how your vacation was. They missed you on the last episode. We missed you, man. We missed you.
Well, now I'm just kicking it into another week of vacation. So life's not too bad. There is work Excellent. In between. I actually do some work along the way.
Excellent. Today isn't. Everything's been good, man. Summertime here, kicking it off, enjoying some sunshine, and jumping into episode number 10.
Kaboom.
We've done 9 episodes, Steve. 9, and we're into the 10th, which is the final one of the season. So this is a huge episode. This is the finale of season 1. And this was our goal, Steve, to do 10 episodes, and here we are. We've had so many great guests so far that have graced the podcast. And if we've learned anything at all, it's to make some time to pause, take some things in, get grounded, be present. So before we move straight into season number 2, Steve, today's episode number 10 is going to be a recap of the very best things, the most important points so far. So the reason we're doing this for all of our listeners is if you are a Netflix fan or you watch any of the series like Ozark or one of my favorites like Too Hot to Handle, I love it when they start you off with, here's what you missed on the last episode. So if you missed a couple or you haven't watched in a little while, they give you that breakdown of everything important that has happened so far. So that's what we want to do in this episode, is take you through all the most important points. So if you've missed some episodes, this is going to give you everything that's happened jam-packed into season number 1, giving you all the best points. Steve, is there anything you want to say to our listeners? We've had hundreds of listens so far this season. Anything you want to say to our listeners to this point?
Well, and surprisingly enough, we had a number of countries come in, right? So
Yeah.
not just Canada, across the world. So that's all I want to do is say thank you, Dan. Thank you to the people that, there's lots of choices. There are a ton of podcasts out there. So if you've taken the time to listen to us, appreciate your patience as we're two rookies kind of getting our way through this podcast landscape. I owe a lot of thanks to you for navigating that and putting everything together. And I appreciate the, continuing the friendship of you and I, and sharing some things out to the audience. If there's one or two things that help them get through their day or improve their day or help them grow, then we've kept that promise, and we continue to keep that promise moving into the next set of podcast shows. So thank you.
To all those listening right now, we love you. We absolutely love you. We are trying to give you some good tips and some good information from some great people. So thank you so much for supporting us. The first person, Steve, that jumped onto season 1 with us was Steph DiBernardi, who is a Canadian champion when it comes to shooting, something that I haven't done a lot of. He's an expert marksman, but also a salesperson. So there were some things that were particularly important. And if you missed that episode, one of the things that Steph outlined that still I think is very impactful is his 4-step mental program. So just to recap for everybody what that was, is he had 4 steps that as he's getting up to shoot, and I mean, this guy is world-class shooter, that he goes through as a mental program. And you can use this for sales as well. So the first one that he talked about was that point of initiation. And it's the moments before you start anything at all. It's that moment where you have to calm yourself a little bit, because anytime we go into any situation, a sales call, you might be out with your manager, a new manufacturer's rep, so you got a little bit of nerves, you're not sure what you're going to say. Taking that moment to initiate some prep and just calming some of the nerves that you might have. Second thing he launches into is the point of attitude. So he starts to think about, what does a perfect run look like? And Steph made such a great point about, what does a perfect sales call look like? Before you go through the door, do you know what you want the outcome to be? Or do you have an idea of what a great call looks like? So getting yourself in that mental state that you start to see the perfect run happening. Third one is point of direction. So can you visualize how you want things to go? So Steph takes himself all the way through the run, visualizing things, making sure that he's got everything pointed the way he wants in the right direction. And the last one is point of focus. And that word focus is such a key word. But how do you want to show up? His focus was, he wanted to be aggressive, and he would use that word. So for all the people that are listening, what is your self-talk like? What are the things that are going through your mind? What is your focus? If you think of the day you just went through or the day you did yesterday, can you identify if you had a focus? Because a lot of the time it's easy to get out there and you just want to go, or you just want to react and respond. But Steph's 4 steps really organize it into a very succinct way of creating your own success. So Steve, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on salespeople and people that don't have a focus, that don't have a target, that don't have a growth plan? What kind of advice would you share?
You mean if you want to go on a road trip to New York City, but you don't bring a map? Is that the question? It's so the word, I guess, it's confusing to me sometimes, that in your question around salespeople and not having targets is then what are you trying to achieve? There has to be some target in there in terms of either a dollar figure or a sales unit number or contact, X amount of contacts that you need to establish to be successful. There always has to be a measuring stick in there somewhere. And without that, you're kind of, how do you know if you're successful or not? I I think there has to be something, and if it's little small wins, small targets, that's great. Nice to have a big one, but you have to have little bite-sized pieces to get there.
All the people we had on this season were champions. We had boxing champions, horse racing champions, and they all said the same thing. And, if you just want to be okay at what you're doing, that's fine. But if you want to really be number one, and I had a great sales conversation with somebody that they were gunning for that first place. And what we both acknowledged is when you're really trying to, become your best, these are the little separators. Having a 4-step mental, breakdown before you're doing things, or having the right frame of mind, having a routine, having a schedule, having targets, having a growth plan, all these things are the differentiators, the separators, that real champions, that's what makes them first and not fourth or fifth or 10th. It's, that's what makes them rise above.
I like it.
Steve,
that brings us to Yvette, right? So
yeah.
You invited Yvette on to the show, a boxer. I'm like trying to figure out how does this match up to sales, but the conversation with her was fantastic, right? But the thing that stood out for me was you have two boxers in the ring. You think they're by themselves, right? One boxer against the other boxer. But from her perspective and what she shared with us is that it was a full team behind that person that makes them successful, right? It's cut man, quarter man, stool, water, strategy, prep talk, the training partners. You've got family behind that team as well, coaches, all sorts of group that help that person be successful, and that you cannot do it alone. And I think that was quite the relevant piece that goes into sales, is that you need people around you to be successful. Yeah, you maybe years ago you could be a one-on-one sell, and not really have to tie into too many other people. But this day and age, you need lots of people to help you out, inside, outside, support, technical support, emotional support. There's all sorts of things that go along to help you kind of run that marathon that we talked about. That sales is from time to time. What about you? What was your takeaway from Yvette?
Well, I just want to key in on a couple of things you said. Emotional support. I think it's a lonely road out there. It is lonely driving that car. Sometimes you just feel like you're on an island and, nobody understands you, or you just got yelled at by a customer and you're thinking, why am I dealing with this? And you get in your own head. So, those emotions, those feelings, everybody's going to have them. But when you can reach out to somebody and you can kind of, even if you just have to vent, or you get a perspective from somebody who's a coach, who's a manager, there's a community that you're in. I think it's so healthy to not try to do things on your own, not try to be the lone wolf and, think that you have to kind of put everything on your back and carry it emotionally, because if you give yourself an outlet, you're going to be able to dump that, get on to the things that you want to focus on, and just feel so much lighter and have everything be healthier. So I would encourage that. But my takeaway from Yvette, the thing that she said that I loved, she talked about offense and defense. And in sales, I think sometimes we get in a little too much in one camp or the other. We're playing not to lose versus playing to win, or we're playing all out, we're all gas and we're no brakes. So I think it's that mix, like a fighter. Sometimes you're on offense. You got to be aggressive. You have to be throwing punches to win the fight. You can't knock somebody out if you don't throw a punch. But at the same time, somebody's coming after you. So if you don't cover up, you're going to take that shot in the face, and it's good night. So I think sales is the same way. If we're not thinking about how we're blocking our competition, how we're blocking deals within a territory. How are we going to get ahead of the competition? How are we going to be a little more aggressive? I think a defensive tactic is sometimes we just have to match prices. Still get the win, still get the deal, but be a little bit defensive. Being the first one into an account is an offensive move. And I think we all know that when we're leading deals, when we're bringing solutions, we're the people in there solving the problems. The deals tip our way. So getting an offensive mind in that respect. And then making sure that leaky bucket doesn't happen in your sales funnel. Are you losing too many deals? Or are there accounts that their spend is going down? You used to get business, but you don't anymore. So a good mix, Steve, I think, of offense and defense is a great analogy that compares to boxing and sales.
I'll add one more.
Give her.
She mentioned that the boxer, win or lose, you have to wake up the next day because you have another match coming up next weekend. I think that was a good nugget for me. You got to get up and get out and knock on the next door.
That's I bring that back to the emotions. The emotions you have when you lose a deal, that's tough. But you got to get back up off the mat, and you got to go out there and you got to fight again, so you can get that win. Which again, another emotional high. And it's ups and downs in sales. You can't win every single match. I don't think anybody's undefeated when it comes to sales. So that brings us over to our next champion, which, I didn't know about shooting, Steve. I didn't know much about boxing, a little bit, but I really knew nothing on horse racing. And I found Eurico Rosa da Silva in episode 3. I found him absolutely fascinating. We talked for an hour. We had to split it into 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But what Yvette ended on is what Eurico really focused on, which was peace and calm. And I think it's important that, if we don't have a way to relieve stress in our life, if we don't know the things outside of work that bring us joy, then we can get caught in burnout pretty quick. And we don't really necessarily have full control over everything that happens in our world. Sometimes we need to get out of our own head. And Eurico had some great things where he would go into nature. This is a guy that's at the very top of the sport. There's so much pressure. There was a race where the Queen was there. None of us are making sales calls in front of the Queen. So, when you start to, increase the pressure and life gets tough, do you have a way that you can relieve that stress? Is it, for me, I like music. I like going out and walking. I like getting in the gym and getting under some heavy weight. Used to be drinking for me. So I want to bring this up because do you have unhealthy habits? Do you have some things that is a stress release, but then it compounds? For me, it always kind of made things a little bit worse when I chose the wrong outlets versus choosing the right ones. And instead of depleting the cup, I got to fill the cup up. So Steve, what's your ways that you de-stress? What are the things that bring you joy, or how do you get outside your own head when you're so focused on work, performance, being number one, being a high performer? How do you get outside that?
Actually, what goes back to when we used to work together in Halifax. I'd take some time away from my day and go to Starbucks and just sit, have a coffee, maybe work on a few things, but just kind of get back into a normal state, jot down some notes, and then move on with the rest of the day. Recently, more in the wintertime, but I love hot yoga.
Ooh.
Sometimes it's tough in the summertime, but in the wintertime, it's such a release. Calm. Your body is relaxed. And then you back that up with a hot tub after that, and then you're maybe I'm a bit too warm after that one. But no. All joking aside, I love hot yoga, and that you can just you get into breathing, a lot of good breathing techniques. You get to stretch your body. You get to just let everything go. and if you've got a good teacher, they, talk you through and let, the premise of the class is to leave things outside, let the week go, and kind of regroup and start your day again tomorrow. So that's what helps me.
I love it. I should start hot yoga because I am the least flexible person. Just stretching hurts me. So I think that's probably something I should try. For our listeners, leave us a comment, send us a note. I want to know, what are the things that you do that help you get out of your own head, de-stress, that you find joy. You can kind of get your mind off work, get your mind off everything that happened in that day. Send us a message, because there's so many great ones. We can bring it up in another episode. We would love to hear from you on that.
Well, that brings us to a nice little thank you, Dan. And that was Steve Ferran, the gratitude guy.
Yes, episode number 6.
Again, you always surprise me with these interviews. But you would think, okay, he's the thank you guy, and one of the topics that came up was, expecting things, like always expecting that you should be thanked, or that there's, if you're going to act and have some kindness towards someone else, there has to be something in return. And that's the one thing that was a good nugget for me. It was that, his traffic story about, letting somebody in. And if they don't wave, then you get upset because they didn't wave because you let them into traffic. And I know that one, living in Toronto, lots of traffic. I still wave. I'm not expecting anything back. But when somebody waves to me when I let them in, and it's like, yay, that was nice. But that's the tie back to sales, was that you shouldn't expect that, because you're pursuing that sale, that there should be there's some exchange, and sometimes there isn't. But I believe, though, if in doing good things, that things will come back to you later. Might not be immediate, but something will come around in a couple of months, or maybe in a couple of years, that bring a positive result to that. So I think that's, in helping people and being kind and sharing that gratitude, that was the thing that I learned from Steve, and that we need to continue to snowball that gratitude effect. How about you?
Yeah, Steve was such an interesting guest to me, and he's a guy that I love, because gratitude is one of those invisible things that when we get so caught up in everything that we feel is important and a priority, sometimes we forget kind of how lucky we are for all the little things. And Steve just had some great stories. That traffic incident being one. The other one that stood out to me that he talked about was bringing a bottle of wine to somebody's house, and couldn't get his head kind of wrapped around that. And it made me think in sales that I think a lot of the time we're the same. We'll do a big deal and we'll say, now I've got to, send something to them, a thank you, or I drop off a note, but it's expected. They just spent $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 with you, and what do we drop off? We drop off a $10 bottle of wine or a $30 fruit basket, the same generic stuff that has no creativity. It doesn't really say thank you in a way that impacts them at all. Or there's an office opening, and they get 10 bouquets of flowers. They don't know which one's from you or from anybody else they've dealt with. So I think sometimes we give gifts in the wrong way. We don't do it in the times that are unexpected. We don't do it in a way that makes us stand out either. It's not personal. So if we're going to take the time to show our gratitude, I want our listeners to think of, are you doing it in a way that's really personal? Are you getting the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to appreciating somebody, showing your gratitude for them as a client? Or is it just a generic box of chocolates that's kind of like, well, I owe you this because I want you to know you're appreciated, but I'm not really going to put any thought into this. I'm just going to mail it in. The standard Christmas gift that everybody goes around with the box of chocolates, and here's some diabetes for Christmas, and here's some some sugar that nobody wants and is going to probably put in the back room, and it'll be bad in the new year. So that's what it made me think of. Gratitude is invisible. It's the thing that we forget about, but can we be better at appreciating people, about being grateful for what we've got and all the people that help provide our income as customers?
And not expecting something in return all the time.
Yeah.
Just doing it because, right? Just because. Love that.
Or for no reason,
Yeah.
show up. It doesn't have to be Christmas. No reason. It's going to make a bigger impact when it's more random than it is expected. That's the takeaway.
Then we had episode number 7, Dan, the change episode.
Change.
Should I lower my voice on that? The change episode.
Change.
So I brought this one up because it was relevant, right? Going through a lot of change. Come the summertime, you were on to a new position, lots of change happening within where we used to work. And so I wanted to share this one and have the conversation because it's constant. Their change is always going to happen, whether it's this week or next week or the week after that. There's something that's going to change in the world, and how to maneuver through it, how to handle it. What are some good ways? What are some pitfalls? Some of the things that we've run into and not managing change properly, and where that got us, or how we did manage change. And I think the takeaway for me on that is that you can't do it alone, right? You need people around you that will keep you straight, that will keep you, your mind and back to your emotional state, keep you in that good form that you can move forward, right? That you can take the next step and not be kind of stuck in the mud or, fighting that change, because you have to move forward somehow. So do you have the right people around you? Are they, giving you the right advice? Are they keeping you motivated? Are you looking at ways that you can stay motivated and move forward? So I was happy to do that one with you because it's something that happens all the time.
Surround yourself with great people. I think you make such an important point that we don't try to do everything on our own. We need the people around us, and things are constantly going to change.
Do you have a change story?
I do.
I don't know if you share it in the episode, or do you have one that you wanted to share today?
Well, I'll give you a quick one because it was the biggest change I've ever been through in my life. But before I do, I want to take you back to the years when I started with Pitney Bowes, and I was new into sales, and you were teaching me how to sell. And I remember the word that stuck out to me that I'm like, this is a cool concept, but I never heard that word used in a sales context, which is to be a chameleon. And when you think of a chameleon, you got to fit in all these different places, right? And then living that reality of being in, a church trying to sell a photocopier one day, and you're talking to that crowd, and then being in a gas station back room the next day, blue collar people, then knocking on the doors of a lawyer the next day, and then this very white collar. In sales, you really do need to be a chameleon because the environment can be changing, especially in that B2B environment. But think about the different personalities. I mean, everybody's done personality testing, and you've got all these, 4, 5, 6 different models. So that's what we're walking into is this mix of people. So change is going to happen because every time we talk to somebody new, that buyer changes, their personality changes. So the more we can think about how we practice the skill of being adaptable, that is a skill. And if we're not exercising that muscle of being adaptable, I think that's something we need to constantly be developing. When I went to Australia, Steve, I was scared shitless because brand new country, brand new team, I didn't know where anything was. And I remember landing going, maybe I didn't think this through. This is an awful lot of change. And I consider myself pretty adaptable. And I thought, I'll just roll with this. But then the emotional state was, oh, this is overwhelming. So much change all at once. But the message, the take home for the listeners is don't underestimate yourself. Don't underestimate the amount of change that you are able to deal with, and focus on being adaptable. When you start to believe that I'm a person that can handle being dropped into any situation and whatever comes my way, I'm going to juggle things. I may drop this and that. It may not be perfect, but I am somebody that can thrive in any type of environment. That sense of personal power, that type of positive belief in yourself, I think that that's one of the most powerful skills, especially in leadership, because you're going to get a number of challenges thrown at you. And if you can lead through those situations when you're scared shitless and still keep going, whether it's pretty or not doesn't matter, but do you get the job done?
Excellent point. Talking stories, tell us about episode number 8, Dan.
And number 8 was all about stories because we had the most amazing storyteller on, Brian Miller. And Brian is somebody that coaches me because I listen to him and it's magic because he's a magician. He's a magician, though, at creating connection with people. So the one that I took away from that episode, Steve, that I hope our listeners got to is how to tell a great story. And what Brian does just brilliantly is he puts everything in the shortest form possible. With all the distraction in the world, the fact that we can't stay focused on things, we need as salespeople to keep things point blank. Shoot. Don't give everybody a long-winded answer to something that's a short question. So his how to tell a story, starting with the before, here's what things look like before, then leading them into the transformation. Here's how this product has impacted our customers. Here's what they look like at the end. And then getting to that after, selling them on the after. They had this problem and then here's the solution. That is a story in its simplest form. And sometimes we make it really complicated, but it's before, transformation, and after. And I think that that's just a brilliant thing to keep in mind when you've got products, when you're going into a client's office and you want to be entertaining, you want to keep their attention, you want to be different, tell some stories, show your personality, but don't vomit all the product information all over them. Keep it short, keep it tight, and why is it meaningful?
That brings me up to like years ago when I started out in managing, and I always thought that I had to kind of lead the meeting, right? So if I was with the sales rep and I was there with them and we had to present, I always felt the need to step in, and then it was me. I had to share everything wonderful about this product. Yes, here it is, and eventually, I think it was, it was Shannon in Halifax, and after the meeting, he said, "Steve, you got to shut up." He said, "Enough. Just say a couple things, but you got to let me run the meeting, and you can jump in." So ever since that, it's funny. It just kind of clicked in my head now, but it's funny. Ever since then, it's like I prepare myself before I go into the meeting. Where do you want me to support you? And then I'll throw in a couple of nuggets of like, yes, here's what happened at this other location, and this is what they did, and this is how it's now changed their setup for their business. And then I shut up, and then I let the salesperson continue on. So that's where I learned my lesson. If Shannon is ever listening to this podcast,
we're gonna have to send it his way. I think it answers my question of if you've ever been guilty of having verbal diarrhea
Yeah, yeah.
or making a short story long.
Oh, sure. Get little kicks under the table.
Well, that transitions nicely to our guest on episode 9, which was Edie Clark, because she does a lot of shorts for YouTube, which is a trending thing. Keeping things precise, but using video. Because we can talk till somebody's blue in the face. We can write the best emails that just absolutely get deleted. But the power of video, when we look at social media, when we look at some of the biggest search engines in the world, of which YouTube is ranked number 2, video is dominating content. Reels, stories, YouTube videos. Look at TikTok exploding. People want video content. So the question is, as salespeople, what platforms are you on? Are you able to develop some video content for yourself? Because humans are consuming video more than they are text. And Edie's points about keeping it short, making sure that you're on the platforms, those are the simplest things. Are you on it today? If not, get started. Second, keep it short. That helps you. If you've never done it before, don't try to have an hour-long episode on something. Keep it to a minute, and that's your way to kind of get your feet wet. Think about what the end solution is for the client. So what problem are you trying to solve? If there's too much filler in there getting in the way, get to the point. What are you trying to solve for your client? What's the purpose of doing that video? Because people are looking for solutions to their problems, and they're looking on YouTube. I look on YouTube for everything household because I can't fix anything. If I need to know how to fix something, I have to go to YouTube. And then somebody brilliant tells me exactly how they did it. And we can start there. And then think about using AI. That was a point that Edie made, that I'm getting more into using AI and I see the power of it. But when AI can write you a video script, if there's certain things that are weaknesses for you, where can the artificial intelligence fill in those gaps for you? And it does it within seconds. It's amazing how good it is. AI can write you a video script, if you want to just read it off, that's better than you can write it. So if you haven't played, I'm telling you, it's better than I can come up with. I'm like, thank you, ChatGPT. You are so much smarter than me. It's incredible. So I think it's exciting. Steve, what do you think about AI? What's your perspective on salespeople and video, and where it's going to fit in kind of long term?
Yeah, I think that's the difference between you and me. You're adventurous. You jump into the video. I'm kind of like, can I do it? It seems difficult. And I loved your episode with Edie because she makes it simple, right? Just about getting started. Even just the connection to her now and the content that she has on her site and what she posts on LinkedIn, it's very valuable stuff. But I'll say I'm nervous with the AI. I don't know enough, so I need to learn more. And for a guy like me, if I wanted to do that or wanted to embrace it more, then I just need to tap into the people that could do it, or the resources that can help me leverage it. Right? If for my business or for my personal gain, then embrace it. Try to find people that could support you and help you, and then take it from there. See where it takes you.
I'm not surprised. 2 brilliant points connected to what you just said, Steve. Edie Clark is. There was. Let me tell you what they are in a very short, precise way. Edie Clark is somebody who you can hire. There are many people out there that you can hire. So if the roadblock is, I don't know how to video edit, do not let that stop you. You can hit play or record on your phone. You can speak. You're in sales. Yep. You know how to speak very well. So record it. Let somebody else do all the magic. all the edits, all the, stuff because you want it to represent you. You want it to be professional. Well, somebody else has those skills. Maybe you can develop them. Maybe you shouldn't bother with that, but put the effort in, get somebody that's part of your team that can help you with that, but don't let it stop you. Second thing, Steve, that you are referring to is getting outside your comfort zone. It's the biggest theme of this whole podcast. It's the reason we started the podcast. So if we don't lead by example and get out of our comfort zone, which is this season of Sales Problem Podcast, is you and me pushing ourselves outside our comfort zone, doing 10 episodes, not knowing everything, what we're doing, but now we've got hundreds of listens. And like you said, there is Finland, there is Norway, there is Vietnam listeners, there is Australia, there's US, Canada. Like, we are international. It surprised the hell out of me. But what happens when you're outside your comfort zone? You get surprised.
Well, it brings me back. We never talked about episode number 1, Dan.
Oh, did we miss? Steph wasn't number. Oh, you're right.
That was my favorite episode. Do you know why?
Oh, well, episode number 1 where we talked about what is the sales problem.
That's right. And it
was Why was it your favorite?
It was our first one. So it talk about getting outside of your comfort zone. It's like, how's this going to work? Are we going to talk over each other? Is the dog going to bark? How do we manage this? Earphones, microphone, all that fun stuff, right? So it was fun in that we stumbled our way through, okay, so this is how it works. This is kind of fun. There's a few nuggets in here that were pretty good. I think I shared the story of getting chased out of one office, the dog chasing episode. But that was my favorite because it started. We kicked it into gear. You had that great idea in terms of this is what we're going to do this year, and it's like, okay, let's make it happen. So here we are, 10 episodes in, and hey, it's now it seems so easy to get these things done. But we need to find new interviews for the new season and continue sharing our little tidbits and tips and tricks and little insights and that promise back to the listeners that we provide some value and some opportunity to help you grow.
I smell what you're cooking. Actually, the first one, although it was the most listened to episode, I don't know if that was my favorite. I think my favorite, okay, Steve, was the one that we recorded 3 times.
Whoa, the rejection
and never
episode.
never actually produced, yeah, because we screwed it up 3 times and it wasn't good enough to share with everybody. So nobody knows about that until right now.
The rejection episode that was rejected 3 times.
Exactly. So anybody that's wanting to start something new, our last tip for you is just jump in, just do it. Action trumps everything. Life rewards action, and that's all part of how we got here. And if you are listening right now, we value you, we thank you, and we are excited for season number 2. Wait until you see what we've got in store for you. All new guests, all new themes, all new points, nuggets, things to help you grow your sales, grow your business, and grow yourself. I just want to remind you that's what this sales problem is. How do we get growth year over year? If you're listening, you've got the same problem that we have. We're the Great Canadian Growth Guys, and we're facing the same thing. How the hell do we get our numbers up year over year? Well, if we can do that, we can share some things with you. You can share some things with us, and we bring on the best performers in all their fields. Well, we're going to get some tips and tricks that are going to help everybody. So that is our mission. That's what we're here to do. Help you grow by enhancing what you know. And this has been episode 10 of our podcast. Steve, final thoughts. Take us out here for episode number 10 before we go to season 2, which is going to be a blockbuster.
Kaboom. I'll take
The
it out.
budget. What's the budget for season 2, Steve?
Well, it all depends on if the Sweet Tarts deals come through.
More sweet tarts.
Sweet Tarts. Dan, all I would say, I'll take a nugget from our guy, Steve, the gratitude guy. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the effort that you put into this show. Thank you for the little insights and the people that you've invited onto the show. And thank you to the people that have listened. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that you'll tune in for the rest of the season number 2.
Yeah, thank you to everybody that's listening, everybody that's going to continue to listen. We value you. We have no budget, just so you know. We're doing this purely because we love it. But if you could share this with somebody within your network, that would mean the world to us. We're not doing this for money. We're doing it for love. So if you can share the love, if you can support and send that to somebody that you know that's in your network. We are growing. This is getting big. We want you to please help us, and we'll give back to you all season 2, all season 3, and beyond. This has been the Sales Problem Podcast. We're going to help you grow by giving you more of what we know and bringing on people that can help you with your business. So thanks for tuning in. And season 2, it's coming your way.